Hi, this is Scott Wilkinson, host of Home Theater Geeks. In episode 339, I chat with master home theater designer Theo Kalomirakis about his new venture called Rayva, which offers pre-designed, pre-packaged, high-end home theaters. So stay tuned.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Home Theater Geeks is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and once again, time for Twit's audience survey. We'd really like to hear from you. It's only going to take a couple of minutes, really. That's all. Just go to twit.tv/survey and let us know what you think. Your anonymous feedback will help us make Twit even better. And thanks for your continued support.
This is Home Theater Geeks with Scott Wilkinson, recorded February 2nd, 2017. Episode 339, The Ultimate Home Theater in a Box. This episode of Home Theater Geeks is brought to you by Zipcar. Zipcar is the largest car-sharing network in the world. To earn $25 in driving credit, visit joinzipcar.com/twit. And by BarkBox. BarkBox paw picks the best all-natural treats and innovative toys for your dog and ships them right to your door. To receive a free month of BarkBox with your 6 or 12-month subscription and free shipping, visit getbarkbox.com/twit. Hey there, Scott Wilkinson here, the Home Theater Geek and editor of avsforum.com. This week's guest geek is master home theater designer Theo Kalomirakis. Hey, Theo, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. We got a lot of great things to talk about today. But before we do, I have a couple of announcements. I want to first of all make sure that everybody knows those who are watching live at live.twit.tv can sign into the chat room there or at irc.twit.tv. And you can post questions as we go, and I'll pass along as many as I can. It always helps to put my screen name in your message somewhere. My screen name, Scott Wilkinson, my name, no dots or dashes or spaces. That way it shows up in a different color on my screen, and I can more easily see it. Also want to let all of you Twit fans know that we have a new audience survey that we would love for you to participate in. It should only take a couple minutes to finish, and it will give us a general idea of who our readers are so that we can provide better programming. And it helps us select advertisers you'd be interested in hearing about. Of course, many of you take privacy very seriously, and so do we. And we promise to always protect that. We do not identify you in any way in this survey. So head on over to twit.tv/survey now, well, after the show, and we will be very happy to hear from you, and we thank you very much for your input. So, Theo Kalomirakis, let's start with a little bit of background on you. How did you become interested in designing home theaters?
I've said it many times ago, it was pure accident. I was a big movie buff, and right around the middle of the 80s, video started coming of age. We got laser displayers, we got beta with hi-fi sound, we got video projectors, and I just put two and two together, and I said, hey, I love watching movies on the big screen. What if I make my basement into a big screen movie theater and enjoy my videos just like I enjoy them in the theater? So I bought a house in Brooklyn, and I made the basement into a very rudimentary theater, just painted the walls turquoise. I remember finding some seats from an old movie house that was being demolished, and they were sold $1 a piece. I bought, I think it was 8 of them. Or 10 of them. I don't remember how many rows there were. That was like 20 years ago. So all I remember is it took me about 6 months to scrape the chewing gum out of the bottom of the seats because they were like, and I filled the bucket of chewing gum. And then the next thing is that I hated the turquoise Noga high that the seats were covered, and they were burnt with cigarettes and everything. So I went to Chinatown and obliged myself to a little old lady. How do you upholster seats? There was no way that I could, afford to have seats upholstered with red leather. I had bought them $1 a piece. So there was no room left or money left for upholstery. So she told me how to do it. So I did upholster the seats with it. Red leather, red velvet, which became like a trademark for my theaters. And a few months later, I had a movie theater in my basement. But I was working for magazines back then. As an editor, I was with Time Warner. I was art directing Discover magazine and what was the other magazine? Money magazine. Just before I left to work at Malcolm Forbes, redesigning a magazine called American Heritage. And because my friends that would come to see movies were all on the press, they were wowed and they said, hey, why don't you let us write about this theater? This is an amazing theater and we should talk about it. So they started talking about it and one thing led to another. People started calling, hey, you have a theater in your home? Can you do the same thing for our home? And I was like, what are you talking about? Leave me alone. I'm a happily employed art director. I don't know how to design theaters. The roof would fall over your heads and I'd go to jail. So I kind of resisted it. And then the newspapers got hold of it. And I remember one day I got a front page story in the USA Today, which was a national paper. This crazy kid in Brooklyn put a theater in his home. So here I was with a bottle of popcorn. And then the phone started ringing even more. And one day, was my boss back then was Malcolm Forbes, who was the editor of American Heritage, who is the editor of Forbes magazine, but he owned American Heritage. So he called me at his room and he said, Theo, opportunity knocks at your door. You're deaf. Take on of these calls and do another theater. I said, but I don't know. I've never done it before. I said, you did one for your home, do another one. If it doesn't work, it's just, don't do it again. Says, I'm going to lose my job. Says, no, you won't. Just go do it. And if you're successful, you stay what you do. If you don't, come back. Obviously, he liked what I was doing. So I got the courage to get the first theater, which was for Ron Lauder. He was running for mayor of New York back then. He was the son of Estee Lauder. So he came in. I remember 10 black limos outside my house. It was like a mafia funeral that Saturday. So they all streamed down to the basement and they saw it and they said, that's what we want for my house. And I was cocky back then. I still am, I guess. He says, no, I'm not doing it again. I did it already. Now you have the money. Let me do something better than what I did in my house. So he did let me, and I did an Art Deco theater in his house. And I got the hang of it. I remember I hired someone that knew how to draw because I didn't know how to draw my way out of a paper bag. I wasn't a designer an architect. I was just a graphic designer. But anyway, the theater happened. And then I got the nerve to get the second theater, the second assignment. Someone came from Connecticut and he hired me and did the second theater. And every theater was more elaborate than the other because I stopped being too afraid that I was going to screw up and I would be fired. So that's how it started. And it started slowly. 1988, I think it was my first assignment. And by 1990, when orders start coming in, not rushing in, but like 4 or 5 theaters a year, I said, well, this is really, I hit something. There's a demand for this. I was just by accident hit on something. Let me do it. So 1990, I just took the step of leaving my day job and focusing on theater, and the rest is history. After that year, 90, theaters started doubling every year. 90, 10 theaters. The next year was 15, 20, and then 40, and then 80. I don't think we sold at any given time more than 90 theaters a year. The peak was 1999, 2000. Then September 11 came, and the country sobered up. And you see a flattening of the demand of home theaters, but it didn't go down until 1998. 1998 was the year that dealt a deathly blow to our industry for dedicated theaters. People were smarting from having lost money in the investment they had.
Wait, so you're talking about 2008, right?
I'm sorry, 2008, no 1990. Yeah. From 2001, after September 11 until 2008, that's when the sales kind of plateaued and we stopped seeing this double-digit growth. I'm sorry, I got my dates mixed up.
That's okay. That's
okay. So anyway, that is when home theater stopped being in the lips of every wealthy person that wanted to differentiate his lifestyle from other people. But, business didn't stop abruptly. So that was when I started thinking seriously about coming up with a way that I don't have to be involved for every single theater that's being built. How could I productize that concept, create packages where I would do the original design, but I wouldn't be involved in every sale. I wouldn't be involved in every installation. And that's what led to what we're doing now with Rayva. I have to say that this concept of pre-design or pre-made theaters, it's something that I had in my mind from 1992. I came up with a concept of pre-designed theaters back then, but it don't include electronics. So just a nice, pretty room. It didn't work simply because you just don't want to sell a pretty room. You want to sell a pretty room with good access, good technology. And it didn't dawn at me to put two and two together until 1999, 2000, when Owens Corning came to us and he said, we have a very big hold on the builders market. What if you could come up with a theater that includes electronics and it's sold to builders for like $40,000? I said, I can do it. I didn't know what I was talking about, but I thought I could do it. So, and actually we put together a package. I remember it was JBL was involved, Vidicon for the projector, and we developed the product. They spent close to $7 million. Some investors that we bring in spend another. And did come up with a theater that is more or less a prepackaged theater, something like we're doing right now, but it failed. It failed, although it did have equipment and it did have design and could install very quickly. There was an oops moment from Owens Corning. They thought that if you bring the price down, you can put it in inexpensive homes. So they targeted homes of $300,000 per home with 2 bedrooms. Well, guess what? What parent will kick the kids out of their bedroom to put the theater?
Yeah, really.
It didn't work for that very, very simple reason that none of us geniuses in home theater had thought before. So anyway, we folded, and how many? 10 years later, I tried to do it again without electronics. I wouldn't give up. I knew there was something in this concept, a prepackaged theater that you buy as one piece on one price, like you buy a car. You buy a Fiat. You don't get a Fiat car, a chassis, and a Mercedes engine and seats from Chevrolet. You buy a car because it's meant to be engineered as one piece. So anyway, I tried one last time with a company called TK Living. We partnered with Cynic and we put together a series of accessories and some designs on paper that will allow for a theater design that didn't cost what it cost to a custom design. It was inexpensive, but again, I do believe that the reason it didn't sell is because I never put 2 and 2 together, that home theater should be sold as a package with design, acoustics, technology. So anyway, I chucked it to experience, I moved on, and then of course a year later, I started thinking about how can I make it worse this time? I've learned by making all kinds of mistakes. Every mistake in the book I made, this time it has to work. So 2 years ago, I got a group of friends together and we created a concept where the theater with the electronics would be sold to the CDM market as one piece. So we came up with some original designs and got a few manufacturers together. I remember it was Crestron, Sony, Stewart, Golden Ear, I think it was. So I said to myself, I just want to make sure that I'm not making another mistake. Let me make it. And we found a price which I thought would sell a lot, $60,000. So, but I went to Cydia and I said, I'm not going to develop a product and spend money without knowing that there is a market for it. So we went to Cydia and they helped us come up with a survey to the integrators to find out if the $60,000 price is something that entices them to get involved, if they're going to make enough money, or what do they want. So we launched that competition just about a month before Cydia, 2012, I think. And then I got a group of integrators and I tried to find out in person what they thought. And it was a very humiliating defeat. What we found out is that yes, I mean, I tell you, but you don't give up. The trick and the message in all this is like, never stop trying what is your dream. So anyway, what we found out is that integrators told us, are you kidding us? You asked us to sell $60,000 theaters. We're not going to make money. We sell $150,000 theaters and don't make money. It's not the price. It's the profit. And they're right. $60,000 might appeal to consumers, to some consumers, but didn't appeal to the people that were supposed to sell it to the consumers. And then the next and most deadly blow is that most of them came back to us and said, forget about home theater, forget about dedicated theater, that's dead. It doesn't work. We tried it all these years. It died with the death of the economy in 2008. I didn't buy it, so I left that presentation and I bumped into Vin Bruno, who is the CEO of Cydia, and I was sitting with him and Andre Floyd, who was with Sony, and Sony was part of the original idea. So I said to them, I'm hanging my hat and I'm gonna go and do something else, continue my custom theaters, forget about beating a dead horse. Says, no, you don't. This is not gonna happen. It's just a matter of education. Home theater is a technical challenge for a lot of installers, especially when the clients now go to the custom installer showroom and they don't want a theater. A younger generation is growing up watching movies on an iPad or an iPhone. They don't even go to the movies. So they don't ask for a dedicated room anymore because it's not the fashion. They say, just put a good TV on a wall, put some speakers, and we're happy. When that happens, our industry suffers. People that sell dedicated equipment for dedicated theaters don't sell. Screens are not being sold. Projectors are not being sold. Seats are not being scrolled. The only people that make money are the LGs of the world, the Samsung on the wall. God bless them, but they're not offering the home theater experience that we all grew up with and we are accustomed to having when we go to the movie theater, where you watch a movie focused on the screen, without distractions, without children yelling and crying next to you and people like eating popcorn. That kind of experience where you and the movie one-on-one happens only in dedicated room. So anyway, they said it's a matter of education. Vin and Andre, we will support you if you don't give up and turn your attention to educating the end users and the integrators and the designers, whoever sells home theaters nowadays, what a real home theater is. We'll be behind you. Anyway, they kind of encouraged me and I said, let me just think of a way of doing it. Cydia says, we're going to be supporting you, but you have to embrace more than the group of manufacturers you had in the original concept, 5 people. Cydia is not a partisan organization. We're not going to support something that involves one manufacturer per category. We want the whole industry to thrive. So we had a focus group at my house about something like a year ago, and we got a representative of every member of the industry, manufacturers, reps, dealers, and we all agreed that a properly designed, put together product that includes technology that's pre-configured, design that is easy to install, and it doesn't cost an arm and a leg. It doesn't cost as much as the equipment. And with education that goes along the theater, there is a chance of succeeding. And that is when we put together the latest version of what we launched very recently. We call the company Rayva, because that name was not registered by anybody. Right now, if you try to get a name in the internet, you get 2,000 names and it's all taken. There was a Rava pharmaceutical company, but because it wasn't an audio-video company, we managed to get that name. And we started building a team based on businessmen with previous experience in our industry. We have a fantastic chairman who is also the investor that guide us to create a company that is viable as a business, not as Theo's hobby about home theater. So after 6 months of R&D and talking to manufacturers and talking to CEDIA, we came up with the idea that we just presented 2 weeks ago at the Builder Show, simply because we think that builders is an easier target right now than presenting it to the integrators. We didn't leave the integrators out. We cannot install a theater without the integrator being part of the mix. They have to put the equipment together. But instead of having the integrators go out and find the client, especially because most of them are not trained to persuade the client to buy a theater. They don't have the verbiage. They don't have the expertise. We said, we're going to do it for you. We're going to train dealers to put theaters in their homes, and then you come in and install them. And after you see that there's business out there for home theaters, you're probably going to be motivated to pursue your own clients and stop telling them, well, a living room is okay. You put a theater in the living room, you put a screen in a living room, you call it a theater. That's not a theater. Go after clients, tell them what is available. Tell them that if you don't have a dedicated theater, provided, of course, you have the space and the money, you're missing out on the experience. And that's how Rayva came about. A group of manufacturers that is ever growing, a group of integrators that we inherited by joining Azion, the buying group. We didn't have the resources to go and recruit 2,000 integrators across the country. So we worked with Azion to train their existing database of integrators. And we developed the product with the participation of manufacturers that were part of the Azion group. So we have an exclusive agreement to work with Azion for a year until we get this product off the ground. And then we'll work with the same manufacturers and we add more integrators as the company grows here in the US until it's ready to bring it abroad in Europe, Middle East, Asia.
All over the place.
So that's
an amazing backstory, and I've got a lot more to talk about. But before we do, I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsor for this episode, which is Zipcar. Now, Zipcar is the world's largest car-sharing network, operating in over 500 cities, towns, colleges, and more than 50 airports around the world. Zipcar provides a cost-effective alternative to car ownership. Zipsters only pay for the time they actually use the vehicle and have no responsibility for additional costs. You can drive cars by the hour or by the day with gas and insurance included. With Zipcar, you'll have the freedom to choose when and where you want to drive. Zipcar's self-service vehicles are available on demand in conveniently located reserved parking spots in your neighborhood. You can reserve your Zipcar in minutes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, by calling or visiting the website. Simply book the vehicle of your choosing and unlock your selected vehicle with your Zip card. Zipcar offers over 50 makes and models of cars that range from environmentally friendly hybrids, EVs, and PHEVs to luxury vehicles, SUVs, pickup trucks, and cargo vans. You'll have the option to choose the make, model, type, and even color of the vehicle you want based on the needs of each trip and the available Zipcars in your area. Reserving, accessing, and using a Zipcar is as easy as getting cash from an ATM. And car sharing is good for the environment. Zipsters reduce their personal CO2 emissions by between 1,100 and 1,600 pounds per year. For wheels when you want them, and $25 in driving credit, go to joinzipcar.com/twit. That's joinzipcar.com/twit. And we thank Zipcar very much for their support of Home Theater Geeks. So you've given us a great background summary of this company now called Rayva, and the idea of having a pre-packaged home theater. Almost, the term that keeps coming to me is home theater in a box. But instead of, a cheap AVR and some cheap speakers and some wires, we're talking about a complete home theater, including seating and acoustics and the screen,
design and technology,
the design and everything.
Correct.
And it's really quite a remarkable idea, and that's why I wanted to bring you on the show to talk about, because for those of us who don't have unlimited funds to have a home theater custom designed, this is, I think, quite an attractive alternative. And so there are certain packages that you offer and certain floor plans that are sort of predetermined depending upon, what you've got to work with in the home that it's going to be installed in. We've got a picture of some of the floor plans I wanted to show, which you label small, medium, large, and extra large.
Extra large.
Yeah, let's take a look at those graphics. So just tell us a little bit about each of these as they come up. Here, this one's small, so I guess it's only, 2 seats or 4 seats?
It's 4 seats, 2 love seats, just because the space. This is a theater that was developed in response to having seen that a lot of new homes have what they call a bonus room that is usually not bigger than 12 by 16, 12 by 15. So we kind of took the idea, the design that the 6 designs that we came, and we kind of squeezed them into that smallest possible room that's out there. Less than that, it's not a theater, it's a master closet, I guess. So that's a theater.
All right. And then as we go up in size, we get the medium, and here we
go
get
to the medium. It's 14 by 16 to 14 by 21, and that has 6 seats. And then we go to the next one, which is a large, and it has, I think it has 8 seats. And then we go to the extra large, which is how many seats? 10 seats? No,
it looks like 8 right there, but I bet you could fit 10, no problem.
No, you can put 5, 10 seats. The idea is to create a pattern, a design that can be stretched to fit different size rooms without altering the design DNA. It's very similar to going to Bloomingdale's and buying an Armani suit. You may be a 6-foot guy, and the suit is made for a 6'2" guy. So you get to the tailor shortens the sleeves, shorten the legs, and it allows you to have a suit that is Armani design, but it fits your body. The same thing if you have a very small body, if you have a very big body and a small suit, you enlarge the suit. So the idea of the room is to have design elements on the wall that first do not touch the floor, the ceiling, and the side walls. So if the room is 2 inches shorter than what we see here in the floor plans, it doesn't really affect the design, because the design, and that's the basic principle of Rayva, sits on the wall like a work of art, like a painting, taking up a lot of real estate on the wall, but not the entire wall. The design elements, which we're going to see a little later, are meant to perform 3 functions. A, to hide the surround speakers. B, to provide acoustical treatments that turn the room from a black box to something that performs accordingly with the technology in the room. And the third function of the design is to give the room the design flair. Those elements hang on the wall, the front wall, the front wall is the screen, the side wall, the left side, the rear side, the right side and the rear and they are illuminated by a track light in the ceiling, just like you illuminate artwork in a gallery. Mm-hmm. No intricate light on the ceiling, no very precise location of hi-hats. If they don't hit the particular target on the wall, you don't have the good lighting. No, the lights are there, and you can move the track lights to illuminate the artwork, which is in this case the design elements. So you bring out the best, picture of its, of the best quality of what is hanging on the wall. Now, these designs come in 6, not configuration of shapes, but in 6 design elements. We created about 12, 13 designs, and I'll talk about them. We took them to the show, and we asked the thousands of guests that we have to select which ones they would like to see in their home. So we finalized a lineup with 6 designs, the ones that were voted most popular by the builder community. Some of my favorite designs, I guess they were very ambitious, but they beat the dust. I had the design where the room was photographs of vegetables. What was I thinking of? Zucchini and cauliflower and cucumbers. Well, when I saw this design, it was very beautiful. It was artwork, actually. But when I saw it 2 days before the show, I said, I am going to take it down, because people will reach to the tomatoes on the artwork and will pelt me. They won't understand what I'm trying to do. So anyway, what we left with were 6 designs, 3 of which are, one of them is abstract shapes that create like a visual geometrical motif on the walls. The other design is seascapes, images.
Well, let's take a look at these. Let's take a look while you're talking about them. Let's take a look.
This is, if you can see this one is the third that I was going to discuss. My friend says, you've done a lot of theaters. Why don't you do a wall with Theo's greatest hits? So I took pictures of my theaters from my books, and I created panels that show highlights of the best work that I've done. So this is called theaters. Let's see another one, and I'll tell you what the other ones are.
Right. Let's take a look here. Okay. This is the same one, but from a different view.
Yes. These are acoustical panels, actually. This is the other group of 3. The second group of 3 are sports related. We have 3 sports: baseball, football, and basketball, illustrated with licensed images of generic pictures of that sport. Those generic pictures are going to be, this is basketball, what we see. These generic pictures, this is baseball. I don't see very well because it's a small screen. But these pictures now that come with the price of the theater is $78,000. It includes any of the things you want. But there is an upgrade. If you want to select, let's say this is baseball, and you want to have a New York Yankees themed baseball, we have a relationship. We're creating a relationship with the licensing aspect of New York Yankees, so you can actually see Derek Jeter or whoever else or the logo of the New York Yankees. And then we have a third level, the same sports in theater. This is the shapes. What you saw there is what I described first, abstract shapes that are floating off the wall in various distances from the wall, 3 inches, 6 inches, 4 inches, to create a more dimensional illustration on the wall. So it's not just photographs, but they're floating panels that give what my regular theaters have, a sense of three-dimensional dimensionality. So new theaters will be, new themes will be added every so often. This is the seascape. You see elements of seat, umbrellas, what do you have? Anchors, sunsets.
Chains, that kind of stuff.
Yes, like this thing, corals. Come March, we're opening the designs of the room to competitions that will be conducting in association with CEDIA and ASAD. inviting young designers to come up with their own ideas.
Oh, that's a
We
great
want this
idea.
thing to
That's
be
wonderful.
To be an evolving forum of design ideas. I wish I had not done the first designs myself. I don't see Rava as my playground for new designs. I've been doing that for a lot of many years. I want to see new voices, new ideas coming into the market, and Rava wants to curate them. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to conducting seminars to graduates of design schools, telling them that home theater is not about decoration, it's about combining design and technology, and give them a canvas against which they apply their own ideas. So this is the principle of Rava. Spread the opportunity among young and old designers. First, we start with young designers, graduates, and then we're going to go to name designers that create eponymous interiors. I won't mention some names that we're kind of working on right now, but we want Rava to continuously develop new designs, and because the designs are very easy, these panels go with Z-clips, proprietary Z-clips on the walls. If the client a year from now is sick and tired of watching Theo's theaters on the walls, take the panels out and replaces them with another theater at minimal cost. So this
and those
is
panels, those panels are not only artwork, but as you say, also acoustic treatments, and
there are acoustic and treatments, camouflage
for the surround
panels.
speakers.
Yes, camouflage for acoustical treatments. The amount of walls that's covered with this treatment is determined by our four technical experts. We have 4 people that are advising us on the level of acoustical treatments, on the correlations between technology, on the sizes of the screen versus in relation to the seating area. So these panels that you see on the wall conceal acoustical treatments that are made up of absorption, reflection, and diffusion at the proper areas, at the proper locations, at the proper thicknesses that allow the room to perform acoustically as well as it perform visually.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, I've got a bunch of comments here in the chat room I wanted to touch base with you on.
Yes.
Mike Heiss, our good friend who's been here, you probably know Mike. He says, it's not a home theater in a box, it's a home theater to put in your box.
That's a nice way to put it.
Nice way to put it. Yeah, exactly. He also wanted me to make sure that I let everybody know that you actually got a CEDIA Lifetime Achievement Award back in 2003. So you've been in this business a long time.
Yeah, and I've been working on this in this industry all my life because I focus on home theaters, because I believe that if you try to do everything because there are opportunities, you never really learn by doing. I've made so many mistakes in the course of 3 years. If I learn anything, it's not I learned because I went to a film school or a business school. There isn't such a thing as a home theater school. I had to make mistakes learn by making big mistakes that I regretted doing it, but I never did it again because I'm smart. If I do it once and it doesn't work, if you do it twice, you're stupid. And I didn't do it. But that is what we decided is that, what we found out is that if we create an envelope that is not provided by CEDIA, by the integrator, is provided by the builder who builds the house. We give the builder a full set of construction elements, construction details, how to build a wall in 3 levels of acoustical isolation, average, medium, and advanced. Not too many clients will spend the money to completely isolate the room like you isolate a recording studio. They may not have the need because they don't have kids, they can play loud, but we give the option to create a box, a black box, literally, without any embellishments, no crown moldings, not baseboards. All the design elements are being brought in one day and installed in the room in the course of 3 hours. The client's contractor builds the room, the integrator is involved with the program, pre-wires the speaker locations based on our templates, so they're ready when the wall is closed, the speaker's wires are hanging. So we come in with a truck, Well, on the speakers, unload the speakers. We put them on the walls. We screw them on the walls. The wall has a substructure of MDF, so you can screw things, design treatments, speakers, screens, anywhere you want without having to locate studs. And we just finish up a room in the course of one day. The rack with the equipment, which is pre-approved by our technical experts of CEDIA, comes pre-wired. So all the integrator has to do is to just run the speaker wires on the walls into the amplifier, and the client has a theater. Now, this is at the entry-level theater that we introduced to builders. There are 3 additional levels that are for more sophisticated, more demanding clients, that they have bigger rooms, that they require more robust projectors, more robust sound systems. Those systems are available at $150,000, $250,000, and $500,000. Those systems come with a technical expert that takes care of the calibration of the room at the highest standard that CEDIA has established through her training courses. So in the entry level, the builder gets a nice amplifier, a very nice projector, nice speaker. They get fantastic sound for the price that is usually cost twice as much as you try to put it together and you don't know what you're doing. But really high performance theaters start at $150,000, and they come with the help of a technical expert that makes the room sound and look as good as $700,000-$800,000 theaters. And the end result is CEDIA will show up, check the results based on benchmarks that they have established, and give the owner a certificate of completion, which is the first time that our industry is doing, and allows the homeowner to have the comfort level that what they got is really performing based on the high standards of our industry. And that is, you know, a guarantee to the homeowner that you didn't get someone put together equipment that sometimes may not work well with each other. They're not the right equipment for the room, or they paid more for the projector than the size of the screen requires, all that kind of stuff. This is a very heavily engineered ecosystem where the technology is pre-matched for maximum performance based on the room size and based on the performance criteria that the client has. The client shows up, and we have a configurator on an iPad, and he builds the theater step by step. First the size of the room, next the design, next the projector. So at the end, he puts together an invoice, comes out with one price. We never sell equipment based on their individual specs or on their price. The people that sell the equipment are not allowed to change the makeup between video and audio. You cannot sell a client a $500,000 theater and take out a $200,000 Barco projector and put a $2,000 Apple projector. The system is built in such a way that it kicks the integrator out. It sends a signal, distress signal, that you cannot do that. Not that they would do that. I'm saying it's built-in guarantee for the client that he's not at the hands of an integrator that either doesn't know or succumbs to the client's demand. The client says, I want a digital projection. I don't care what you have. But that projector might be a much, much more expensive projector than what they need. So to make a long story short, every system has perfectly calibrated electronics from manufacturers that have product in that price category that has been pre-tested, pre-approved, and guaranteed to the consumer for the best possible performance.
Well, this actually brings up a question I have for you, and in fact, there are a number of comments in the chat room that address it. But before I get to that, let me thank our other sponsor for this episode, which is BarkBox. Now, BarkBox delivers 4 to 6 natural treats and fun toys for your dog, curated around a surprise theme each month. BarkBox paw picks the best all-natural treats and innovative toys to match your dog's unique needs, including allergies and heavy chewer preferences. All edibles are made in the USA or Canada, and 100% of their products are tested on animals, their own. BarkBox is a great way to try a variety of treats and toys from local and small businesses that you may not otherwise be able to find. BarkBox also makes their own products through their Bark & Co. brand. And they've shipped over 16 million toys and treats so far. Getting started is easy. Choose your dog size, small and cute, up to 20 pounds, just right, 20 to 50 pounds, or big and bold, 50 or more pounds. You can choose a plan. 1, 6, or 12-month plans are available, and then get your BarkBox. BarkBoxes are shipped on the 15th of each month. BarkBox will keep your dog engaged, interested, and happy. If your dog doesn't like something in the BarkBox, they'll send you something else for free. Scout's honor. When your dog falls in love with something from the box, you can easily find it again on barkshop.com or the BarkBox app. And you can cancel anytime, and shipping is free in the continental United States. So give your dog the joy of 1,000,000 belly scratches. Get 1 month free and free shipping with your 6 or 12-month subscription by visiting getbarkbox.com/twit. That's getbarkbox.com/twit. And we thank BarkBox very much for their support of Home Theater Geeks. Okay, Theo Kalomirakis, we got a number of comments in the chat room talking about what you were just talking about and what you talked about also at the beginning of the show, which is combining products from different companies. And, you know, if you buy a car, as you used as another example, you know, you're getting it all from the same company, although there are, you know, third-party providers and so on that provide a lot of products, components, I should say, of the car. But here, really, we're talking about combining a bunch of different manufacturers with some manufacturers are projector manufacturers, others are speakers, others are electronics, and so on. And so I just would love to hear you talk a little bit about how you go about making sure that these products work well together.
They have to be submitted. Whatever we select is preceded by one questionnaire to the manufacturer. We give the manufacturer a specification of the room. We tell them the room is 12 feet wide by 20 feet long. We're going to have 4 seats, and we need your product to be selected based on certain price points that allow us to sell the theater for $70,000 or $150,000. So the manufacturers submit a list of equipment that they think fit the criteria of this particular price category, and then those equipment are being sent back to our technical experts at CEDIA, whose role is to test the equipment and make sure this particular set of speakers works well with that particular manufacturer of AV receivers. This particular screen is supposed to work well with this particular projector. So we count on them to come back and say, you cannot mix that brand of AV receiver with that brand because the speakers require higher power to be driven. So in all honesty, and manufacturers know what we're looking for, so they're not going to look for some equipment that don't work together. They know what other participants are. They have an understanding of what we need. But the ultimate judge of what goes in the package are our CEDIA experts that say, okay, you can use that Integra projector with that Triad, that particular brand of Triad speakers, because they're going to work well together. So we do not really get involved in making these specifications. They're being made by our experts. We are designated by CEDIA, and I can tell you who they are. It's Dennis Erskine, who is the chairman of CEDIA, Steve Haas, who is an acoustician for SH Acoustics, Joel Silver, who is an ISF guy in charge of video performance, John Bishop, who works as a rep for manufacturers from digital projection to Barco. So we're people that have established credentials as experts in their category to judge on us. But that is not ending there. CEDIA is setting up their own criteria for performance, and they train the integrators that are becoming involved with Rayva to understand those performance qualifications, how bright the projector has to be in order to be acceptable, what is the contrast ratio, things that I'm not particularly involved because that's not my expertise, but I'm counting on CEDIA to setting up performance requirements for what we select in order to guarantee a theater that when it's built, the CEDIA police, quote unquote, train people that CEDIA sends out to the client, take measurements of the room, let the system play, and if this thing is according to specs, the client gets a CEDIA certificate of completion. Mm-hmm. So that's how we guarantee the performance.
I have to say that I'd say the majority of your technical experts, as listed on the website, have actually been guests on this podcast. So I'm very happy and proud to say that. I talk to a lot of really smart and capable people on the show, and that's really great. Barfel in the chat room is asking, what do you do for HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning? Do you involve yourself in that?
Fantastic question. On the entry-level theaters where we work with builders, and they usually have a register, there is no real direction to them other than moving the register in an area that doesn't interfere with the acoustical treatments on the ceiling. But we make available, if we let them know that in order for the room to be quiet, you have to understand what the air conditioning does to the room. If you have a noisy air conditioner and ducts that are not the proper size, it will affect the performance. So we turn them over to our acousticians. The same people that we mentioned before have people that work around the country for them that go in and provide acoustical consultation for a fee to those that want to achieve the ultimate performance. We took that to a higher level at the $150, $250, and $500,000. We built in the price of the theater the technical evaluation and air conditioning advice that comes from these 5 people and their associates. These 5 people are not enough to go around the country and service 100 theaters. For Joel Silver has like 10 projector calibrations that he works with in various parts of the country, and we're careful to divide the country based on areas where the principal technical advisors reside, so we don't have to incur traveling expenses for the client. So for the big projects, built-in consultation for air conditioning performance is part of the price. There are clients now that they build, if you do a $500,000 home, you may need a much more sophisticated acoustical consultant to advise you on other areas that are a little bit more sophisticated or esoteric to be dealt with the package. So these people are being referred to these clients that are being dealt by an integrator that installs the theater, bring into the attention of the client the technical experts that are standing by to provide customized advice that we cannot provide to the builder. In the builder community, there is no builders will not pay $5,000 and $6,000 for custom consultation. But if you spend $500,000, it behooves you to make sense to spend that kind of money to safeguard your investment. Yeah, exactly.
Barfel continues by asking, do you specify any sort of HVAC performance?
Absolutely.
It must be below a certain noise threshold or something like that.
These are part of the CEDIA specifications that are being developed right now, not just for our theaters, for similarly, sophisticated product, but our experts submit to CEDIA their minimum specifications. CEDIA matches them with their specifications. Usually, CEDIA is a little bit more austere. I mean, it has more stringent specifications than anybody else. And these are become the criteria that allows CEDIA at the end to come and measure the performance of the room instead of noise and noise control, noise level, so that they comfortably award the certificate to the homeowner.
Mm-hmm. Beatmaster.
We don't get involved with that. We bring the experts to make sure that they take care of these very important aspects of home theater.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're aggregators. I want to take this opportunity to. Rayva does not develop anything. Rayva is an aggregator
You've developed these pre-packaged
other
systems.
than the basic concept. Rayva is an aggregator of products and services. We select from 100 manufacturers, and at some point we want to have as members all the manufacturers, the products that work together. We establish criteria of performance that work in synergy between components, and that's what we do. We don't specify the noise levels or the air conditioning, performance. That comes from the people that part of the aggregation process, people that give us the specs, and that specs become our specs that we enforce on our clients.
Okay. Beatmaster in the chat room is asking, what is the usual duration for a project from inception to completion?
A theater, you mean?
Yeah.
Usually, like in every other theater, it follows the cycle of the product. If the client is building a room just for a home theater right now, we give the client free of charge, part of the package, the architectural plans to build the room. The client, first of all, gives us the room size. We compare it with the nearest size of our 4 templates, and we stretch it, we tailor it to the client's actual specifications. After we give that takes a few hours. Then we give the contractor the plans, we tell them how to build the walls, which is not that different than what he does, except we give them the opportunity to build them with different types of acoustical isolation. But the end result, the contractor gives us a black box, literally a rectangle painted in flat black, that has the wires for the speakers pre-installed, and that takes half a day or 2 hours. The builder lets the client know, the integrator know when the walls are out. The integrator shows up, runs the wires per our plans, and then that's when the theater begins to build, when the room is painted in black and the platforms are done. We don't provide the platforms. The platforms, which is MDF, are being built by the builder because it's a custom item. Mm-hmm. When the builder says the room is ready and carpeted with the carpet that we've indicated, we show up and the whole process takes a day. It takes 2 to 3 hours to hang the speakers and the screen on the wall, and takes another 2 to 3 hours to hang the treatments in front of the walls, and it takes a couple of hours to put the seats, to open the boxes. The seats are part of the theater, and put the seats together. And then the next day, usually what happens is the calibration. We give them the opportunity to kind of calibrate the room based on the performance. The automation is part of the package. When we get a Crestron or a Control 4 or a Savan system, depending on what the integrator sells, that is part of the approved manufacturers, then the automation is already pre-programmed. The equipment are already pre-mounted on the rack before they come in. So the job of the integrator is literally put the rack on its place, connect the speakers, and calibrate the room. Now, if the room is $250,000 or $150,000, it's another different story. The integrators invite our experts to come in for custom calibration, and that alone can cost a day. But the point I'm trying to make is the system is so developed in advance that installing it, I would say maximum 2 days.
Amazing. You mentioned flat black, and I have to say how much I appreciate that. I see so many theaters that have been painted white or some bright color, and that affects what you see on the screen. So the fact that you're actually going with flat black is wonderful, in my opinion. My question is, with all of that decorative panels that also are acoustic, hide the speakers and the acoustic treatments and so on. Doesn't that affect what you see on the screen by virtue of reflecting off these potentially very bright, large panels?
First of all, we have avoided using very bright pictures for that reason. And second, we selected a fabric that is so matte that is not reflective at all. If you get any kind of our fabrics and compare it to the typical Guilford of Maine acoustical fabrics, ours is much more absorptive. Yes, if the scene is very bright, you're going to be aware that there are paintings on the wall. Only in a black room with no light, you won't see anything. There isn't such a thing. And only if you do a Jocaine theater, which has to be a black theater, and then there is no design. But most clients will not tolerate a black room. There is always a middle ground. And to me, the inspiration and the fearlessness to use some pixels, minimizing reflections as much as possible by using fabric, the comfort level that I have is reinforced by going to the old movie theaters, which got us into the theater. Movie theaters have a lot of gold. My old theaters are guilty of that. There were a lot more reflective surfaces to deal with. There were lights that they were on during the performance. If you go to any movie palace, including Radio Music Hall, you're going to see a faint light coming everywhere because all theater goers were used to be aware that the theater is around them. So there is no such thing as pure black. That is the aesthetic of an industry that is 5 degrees of separation from where this thing all started. Movie theaters. You're not distracted by the design. The design is part of the appetizer, part of what makes the experience so complete. You sit in an environment that's inspiring, that makes you want to be in this room. It's not a black box. I remember years ago I was interviewing with Hoyts, the theater company, when home theater was still big. So I interviewed them to get a job to design some commercial theaters. And theaters at that time had stopped being elaborate. They were like black boxes. So I asked the CEO, what do you think is the 3 more important elements that you go for a theater? He says, I know what it is. Number 1, the biggest screen you can get. Okay. Number 2 is stadium seating. And what is, no, I think it's only 2. He mentioned the 2. So I said, okay, and what about the theater? He said, I was trying to tell him what does he think about design. I said, what theater? I said, the theater. Oh, the box. I don't know. He didn't know what to answer because in the contemporary language, there is no theater. The theater, lately, you see in some of the boutique theaters where the designs start creeping in, and go a lot of times abroad. And I go to India and to China. In India especially, there's a tradition, and still the new movie theaters that open have that kind of movie palace kind of ambience to it. You don't want to have a theater in the home that doesn't have the intent of design that you have in your bedroom, in the living room. No consumer will tolerate a black room just because it performs at standards that some of our, specifications require for recording studios. So, but having said that, you don't want to put the room with crazy reflective surfaces that will ruin the presentation. You try to minimize the glare as possible by using the right materials, dark tones, non-reflective surfaces, and that is what we're trying to achieve with Rayva.
Let's see. It was, Freddie was asking about the brands you mentioned for control systems. You mentioned Crestron, you mentioned, and he wondered about the other 2, and they were Savant and Control 4.
Control 4 and Elan.
Oh, and Elan. Okay. What are some of the other, can you say some of the other companies that provides the products that are already signed up?
We're working with, we're going back and forth with the contracts with the manufacturers, Sony, Meridian, Wisdom Audio, Lutron.
For lighting, Lutron for lighting, Wisdom for speakers.
Lutron for lighting, KEF, Triad. We're bringing some more amplifiers like Integra. We're working with a couple of other manufacturers. The big systems have their own amplifiers, like Wisdom Audio and Steinway Lindorf are complete packages. They have their own power amplifiers. We're working with Trinov for some of the high-end theaters. And why do we need more than one manufacturer per category? We need it not because we try to be democratic, but because dealers drive the installation. If we go to dealer A in Cincinnati and we ask him to provide the theater, and he doesn't happen one, at least, of our speakers, that dealer is not authorized to sell Rayva. So by having 2 or 3 brands per company, per equipment category, we have more chances to have a dealer in Cincinnati to use Sony, Crestron, and KEF. And another dealer in Oklahoma will use digital projection and Elan and Triad. So all this equipment are pre-certified, pre-calibrated, so we know it works. So when the client sits down with an integrator to select the equipment, and there is a drop-down list at the iPad, if a drop-down list comes down and there's a Sony projector and the integrator tries to pick a Sony projector, it's being kicked out. He can only use the projector that he is authorized by the manufacturer that he works with to order. This is a protection to manufacturer that there's not going to be unauthorized switches of equipment. An integrator is not going to try to upgrade something at the expense of the consumer, even if the consumer doesn't need the upgrade. It's a system of checks and balances to protect the manufacturer and protect the consumer from systems that are not meant to work synergistically together.
Mm-hmm. Well, one last question I have for you, which is, you've mentioned different price points, at which you get more calibration services or whatever, and it can go up to $500,000. What is the absolute least expensive package that you sell?
This is the 78, and we're working on a $50,000 package, mostly for builders, not for our industry. There is a lot of bonus rooms that we found out there that have a very, very small footprint, and a $79,000 package, it may be expensive for a builder that builds a lower price home. Like even now, our $78,000 packages are for homes that over $1.5 million in price and over 3,000 square feet. You cannot take a $79,000 package and try to sell to the builder that builds a home and $800,000. It's not going to work. It's too expensive. So the lower the prices we can get, we will entice more builders in lower price categories of home. And
which I would think would be a good thing, because there are only so many people that have the kind of money who are building a $1.5 million home or more, 3,000 square feet or more, and so on, to be able to afford to put such a theater, even a prepackaged one, which would be a lot less than if they had done it totally custom, which is what your point is.
If it do that custom with one of prepackaged rooms are in the industry, there are companies that sell the design and electronics AV integrators build the design. You can get a finished theater for less than $150,000 to $200,000. That includes both. But at the other end of the spectrum, you cannot expect that because you're going to bring the price down to $5,000 to $50,000, you're going to get more sales. You get to the point where you're going to have the same problem that we had with Owens Corning. The smaller the house, the fewer the rooms. So you can get it down to $10,000. If there is no extra room in the house to put a $10,000 theater, you're going to have a product that is not selling.
Well,
a dedicated theater is it's a luxury, still a luxury thing. We try to bring the price of the luxury as low as you can, but after a while, you can bring it further down.
It's still luxury. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, of course, exactly.
Well, and it's a luxury that I love covering, and I know you love being involved in too. And I want to thank you so much for being here on the show and explaining the whole concept, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much for having me, and I appreciate it very much.
You bet. So that's Theo Kalomirakis, who has been a home theater designer for a very long time, and now with Rayva. And you can find out much more about that at rayva.com, RAYVA.com. Thanks again, Theo.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thanks, you too. You can find me always at avsforum.com. You can email me at scott@twit.tv, and you can follow me on Twitter at htgeekscott and at avsforum. You can always find previous episodes of Home Theater Geeks right here at twit.tv/htg and on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/twit Home Theater Geeks. Next week, my guest geek is scheduled to be Peter Otto, an audio engineer who has developed a very interesting application of what's called beamforming technology, in which a bunch of little tiny speakers can be used to beam sound much like laser light, not quite as collimated or as directional as laser light, but a lot more than a regular speaker. And that's got some really fascinating applications. So we will talk about that, and I hope you will join us. Until then, geek out.